My wife 38 female and I 37 male met back in college. We dated for 5 years before getting married. Our marriage has been good with a little ups and downs. We have 2 girls 13 and 15. January last year, I noticed my wife spending more time in phone more than normal. She basically did what every typical cheaters does. Lied, blame shifted and gaslighted me when I tried to express my concerns. I know I was not perfect and I did some things that I regret very much, but she treated me like a piece of shit all this time during her affair. I tried to improve all the aspects of our relationship that she felt like they were not good. When D-Day came in the beginning of June, she confessed to having an E and sleeping with him only twice. Then she blamed me for her affair. She said that she wanted to reconcile and we tried reconciliation, but she was just not into it. She still contacted him and they were still talking. When I told her how uncomfortable it made me, she said they were just friends and kept deleting texts even when I told her not to. When I threatened divorce, she would cry, apologize and beg me not to. When I tried to bring up the affair, she would get mad and somehow I was the one who ended up apologizing. Then after 2 or 3 months she started disappearing again, saying that she was visiting family because they needed her at the time. I knew she was going to CAP, and when I brought it up she was very convincing. One weekend she disappeared and didn't pick up my calls or answer my text, and when she came back, she told me that her cousin had gotten sick and they had to rush her to the hospital and forgot her phone at her sister's place. And all this time I was trying to make it work for us. She saw all the efforts I made but just didn't give a fuck. Then by mid-December she told me that she was moving out, that she had been unhappy in our relationship, and while she still cared for me she was in love with AP, that she had finally found her soulmate. I remember crying for hours trying to beg her, but her mind was made up. We had to tell the kids. She said that I could have the kids for the weekdays and she could come visit them on weekends since her AP's apartment was small. She filed for divorce a week after. This was the worst moment of my life. I grieved for weeks. When I tried to talk to her to see if there was any chance, but all she said that she was sorry for everything she put me through, but her mind is made up. No one other than us knew. Both her and my parents knew that we were only separated but never knew the reason. By the end of January, when her mom called me and insisted I tell the truth, I invited her over together with her dad. I told them everything and like literally I broke into tears and cried on my mother-in-law's shoulder. They comforted me and apologized for their daughter's behavior. I later told my parents and then some few close friends. Soon enough everyone knew about us and I started receiving comforting messages, others talking ill of my ex. Soon afterwards, my wife called me crying, saying that I turned everyone against her and that she hates me. She said that people were threatening her and AP and her dad hates. They had a close relationship. Her and sisters don't want to speak to her, and no one will speak with her without insulting her. This was mid-April. By the beginning of June, her relationship with AP had fizzled out due to stress. I remember she came to see the kids and told me that her AP kicked her out cause he couldn't handle the stress of their relationship. She was living in a hotel room. She didn't look good at all, like someone who was depressed. She asked if she could move back in and I said no. She said that she understood but asked to spend more time with the kids. She said that she wanted to make up for the lost time with the kids and wanted to come in the afternoon and cook for them and spend time with them. I agreed. By this time she would come cook my favorite meal, clean the house, write a small note saying I love you together with flowers. When I came back home from work she would always try to spend some more time with me. I have to admit I did enjoy spending time with her. Then she started talking about how much she misses me and asked divorce is what I really wanted. I always avoided these conversations. Last week now she told me that she had been going to IC and was wondering whether we should try MC. She has started dressing the way, like wearing makeup. She has tried to initiate sex but I have turned her down. She has bought me more goods and more than countless times she has brought up MC. On weekend, she cried, begging me to not to go through with the divorce. That she has already put up with a lot and all she wants me and her family back, and she will to do whatever I want. I know it's like the roles are reversed. All this time I have been numb, although a part of me feels happy now that she has gotten a taste of her own medicine. I still love her but I don't really know if I should give our relationship another chance. Cheater ex female 25 wants to reconcile with me male 25. Wow, I put our whole life story. Sorry gals and guys, but it was nice to get off my chest. Thank you ahead of time to anyone who actually reads the whole thing. There is a shorter version at the end and a TLDR. My ex female 25 and I male 25 had dated for 5 years. Living together for the last 2 of those years. We had been decent friends for 2 years before we started dating. Then we became best friends when we dated. It was pretty awesome. Picnics, dinners, video games, we had a lot of fun together. After undergrad we both got into the same top 10 biomed PhD program in the country together. Pretty spectacular. That is when we moved in together and things kind of went downhill around this time. It became apparent relatively soon that neither of us particularly enjoyed doing science as much as we thought we might. The stress, anxiety of a pretty demanding graduate program that we didn't want to be a part of took its toll on our relationship. Although we were still best friends and close, sex had dropped off to a minimum and we were both just generally unhappy with our situation. We left after a year and moved home to pursue other pursuits. I started med school applications while working in social work, and she started Teach for America TFA applications while working in a bakery, life dream of hers. Side note, I feel bad because I'm about to blame her for our problems, but I truly feel her declining mental health was the crux of the issue here. She had been suffering from generalized anxiety. Due to her now uncertain future, having the future set in stone was a super duper big thing for her. Even though she made it into TFA, she still felt uneasy. While at a month-long training retreat for TFA, she cut off nearly all contact with me. Her last night there, she once again ignored my phone call. I texted asking her to please talk, since we really had to plan how she was getting home the next day. Her text back was short and crazy hurtful, especially considering what was to follow. Please don't ruin this night for me. It is the last time I will see some of my friends here. Yeah, so that's when she slept with another guy. She told me the next day and wanted me to forgive her and move past, which I intended to at least try, but refused to stop hanging out with, seeing the guy in question. So that was that, and we had to go our separate ways. Honestly, I'm still not over her. I don't know if I ever will be fully. All this culminated in the reason why I come to you now. Relationships. She sent me a text saying she wants to reconcile. I asked for a little clarification and she said, I don't know, be friends I guess. Now we live about 45 minutes from each other and don't have the same circle of friends, so it's not like we've been avoiding each other or anything. I want to know what everyone thinks she might mean and a good response I could have. I cheated on and lost a great guy years ago. I saw him yesterday and realized that cheating on him was the biggest mistake of my life. I met this guy in college. When we first met, we just hooked up with no strings attached. We honestly barely had a friendship at first. It was just sex. After a while, we ended up hanging out a little bit at a time and we realized we really liked each other. We played around with the idea of dating for a few months but never did because we both wanted to be free while we were in college. Maybe a year after we met and had been hooking up and had started our friendship, he asked me out. I was way into this guy, so, even though I was loving the hookup culture in school, I decided to date him. Well, a few months and I cheated. I don't even remember TH guy's name. It was a random ons with some dude I met at a bar. Immediately after we started having sex, like the second he was inside me, I felt regret. This was absolutely not worth it. At the time, I knew nothing of consent and felt as was my obligation to finish having sex with him. I did, and the next day I told my BF. I'll never forget the look of disappointment and hurt on his face. He broke up with me that day and it took me years to get over this guy. For years I built him up in my head. I saw him as perfect. I realized now this was unhealthy, and with therapy I was able to finally get past it. Now, I'm 30 years old and had moved on with life, as I'm sure he did as well. Then out of the blue I ran into him at a Barnes & Noble's yesterday. As soon as I saw him I felt beside myself. I went and said hello and we ended up spending the rest of the day together catching up. We even went out to dinner together last night. The whole day I was looking for reasons to tell myself that he wasn't as good as I remembered him being. I was searching for any deal breaker or flaw in him and I couldn't find one. We exchanged numbers and I'm dying to call him and ask him out, but at the same time I feel scared of what he might say. I was young and stupid and didn't know what I had in front of me. Cheating on him was a huge mistake and I wish I could take it back.